Well, anyway, guys, welcome to a new month, actually. Welcome to July. I almost said June. That's how much my brain is right now. But anyway, guys, welcome to July. Welcome to another edition of YWC Football Talk, as always, presented by Gents Boutique. 20% off any purchase of $50 or more when using the promo code CFL2025. This week, we have the rivalry from the QEW, Toronto versus Hamilton, Friday night at BMO Field. From the Argos Bounce, I got Nick Small. And new to the show and new into, my life, I've only known Rick online for a little bit, but it is Rick from Ticats Talk Network. Gentlemen, how are we doing on this wonderful July evening?
I mean, if I could say after watching yesterday's practice, some of the players that were getting first string time, then you find out that they're questionable, kind of frustrating because you thought, well, they practiced with their first strings yesterday, they're going to play. But I guess we'll find out tomorrow once the depth charts come out.
I wish I knew what this thing called practice was, Rick. We didn't get any. We're on a short week. We had Wednesday, and that's about the only day. Tomorrow's our walkthrough, and then we get right into action. Going from the Sunday to Friday schedule is not the best. The one thing depth chart wise I will discuss briefly is that anybody who was possibly on the depth chart as a questionable or whatever, they are out. No Chad Kelly, no Wyndham McManus, no Parrish. Anybody who possibly could have been out or on the fence is out. I think the strategy is to take that this week against Hamilton for whatever happens, and then take the advantage of the bye week to rest up for Montreal the week after.
Yeah, I feel like if this game was on, and I kept saying this to myself because there was that Dinwiddie interview on TSN radio last Friday, I think it was, where he said, like, hey, he's out for Hamilton, he's out for Ottawa and Hamilton, excuse me. I feel like, though, if this Hamilton game was being played on Saturday night or Sunday night, there'd probably be a chance that we'd get him, but I think they're like, you know what, I'm not talking with Chad, get through this week, get to the bye week, get everyone rested, recouped, and healthy. I'm more wondering if we're going to see anyone like a Mac. I don't know about a Mac Mahan, but like I feel like Winton, a Kassar, a Parrish, those kind of guys will probably see post bye week. But more than anything, before we're going to talk about the games. We're going to talk about all the games this week, guys. Don't worry about that, and for the listeners too and viewers. But my big concern, my big thing with this Friday's game is that, and I don't know if you want to say if Hamilton won or not because, and Rick could probably elaborate on that better, because of no Davis Alexander for Montreal. But you have two teams who, were winless going into last week, and all of a sudden now, hey, big win against Montreal, big win against Ottawa, to where now it's like, hey, a win this coming Friday night can not change the course of your season, but kind of give you that little like spark that you need to kind of keep going forward.
So the thing with us last week is you release Kyle Wilson, you bring in Devin Veresek, who we drafted second overall. He has that interception for a pick six against McLeod Bethel Thompson. Then our defense steps up. But then if you look at last year, okay, look at Winnipeg. Winnipeg was what, 0-5 last year? They made the playoffs. 0-4. Okay, so 0-4. You can still make the playoffs because you guys have your bye week at week 6. That's only a quarter of the season. You guys could still turn it around once Chad Kelly comes back.
Yeah, I think it makes it a very different story for Toronto going into this game had they not won last week in Ottawa. That was kind of as these losses have sort of mounted up, it's put a lot of pressure. And this isn't the same Argonauts team we saw last year, or we might even see in the playoffs this year, just due to the sheer number of injuries, but also the guys who are of what I think we would agree would be starting caliber type players. Jack Kassar, Sirocco, Giffen. They just got Janarian Grant back. Mac Mahan, McManus, Parrish, like all these guys are all starting caliber guys. How I kind of look in this game is that I think if we're compared to who is under more pressure going into it, I think there's a lot more pressure on Hamilton because they have a more complete roster, and I think they're in kind of a more desperate situation. If they can't beat Toronto with all these guys out, or at least have it be a close game, I think it's not a very good sign for Hamilton going forward. You kind of have to wonder where they're going in terms of their trajectory afterwards.
The one thing I'll say is, though, I Still, because I know Hamilton, I believe, plays Ottawa next Saturday night. I think that's their next game.
So after this week, we have a home and home with Ottawa.
Okay, but here's the thing, though. After Sunday night, and even what we saw in Calgary, like Ottawa has some stuff, but like they stick to such a one-dimensional game plan to where even if Hamilton were to lose this game, I would be fully confident in them being 3-3 after that home and home against Ottawa. I have a saying when it comes to, like, obviously, because if you guys see the ticker as well, sports betting is a huge part of my show. I can't buy the Ottawa. I'm going to buy into them now, but I can't buy into them because of who they're playing this weekend. But against Hamilton, I'm going to take Ottawa. Last year, I remember that Hall of Fame game. I thought, you know what? Hey, that was when Toronto went into Hamilton and lost. Hey, it's Hamilton. This was like their jump the shark moment of the season. But no, they whooped the Hall of Fame game. They destroyed Ottawa that Saturday to where I think if Hamilton were to lose this game on Friday night, it only helps them instead of hurting them. I think it's like either way for both teams, but I think you have the two sides of this. You have the Hamilton team where it's like they want to make a point, they want to beat their rivals down the QEW, but then you have a Toronto team who's really looking. I think when it comes to pressure, I think there's more local pressure on Hamilton to win this game, but there's more of a national CFL-wide pressure for the Argonauts to win this game, because if the Argonauts fall to 1-4, then it's going to be, hey, as soon as Chad's back, everyone's going to think win immediately.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because like even when we're forking out $300,000 for Kenny Lawler, like you have to like have expectations. Like, okay, we're bringing in this top dollar per player. You got to expect big things from this offense if you're going to invest that kind of money into the defense or offense. But then if you look at Edmonton, for example, Edmonton invested almost $1 million, if that, on their defense, not much on their offense. And now look at Edmonton. So you have to balance it on both sides of the field.
My thing with that is I feel like Hamilton knows, like, hey, we have to get better now. We have to improve. We have, but the drought aside, because last year I drank the Kool-Aid of Hamilton just because I thought, like, hey, it was year 25. I'm like, they're not going to want to like get down that rabbit hole, and then eventually just losses kept adding up. Meanwhile, with Hamilton, now it's like, hey, we gotta get or get off the pot. They got to get off the pot. Meanwhile, with Edmonton's long-term building, but they just looked at everyone and said, hey, you want a Grey Cup, you want a Grey Cup, you want a Grey Cup. Here's a 6-figure contract. Here's a 6-figure contract. Here's a 6-figure contract. You're a Toronto Argonaut. Come play for the green and gold, guys. So that's my thing with Edmonton right now, where Edmonton's like a 3 to 5 year plan. Meanwhile, Hamilton's a 1 to 2 year plan.
The green.
Go ahead, Nick.
The D line's a great example of that, because they literally copy and pasted the Toronto Argonauts starting defense aside from Falar and Arimolade, and it hasn't really quite. To their arch rivals, but it hasn't really met up the same expectations as I think people seen. And meanwhile, Toronto has picked up probably the best defensive lineman acquisition of the year so far with Andrew Chatfield Jr. He's been absolutely sensational. So, while other teams are poaching our guys, we've proven through our recruiting and through our scouting, we've gotten a lot of good pieces to fill in that holes, and sometimes guys who have even done better. But you do have to wonder from the Argo side, there's only so far you can dig into that well until it starts to run dry. And I think that's kind of the concerns we've seen in Toronto this year at the start. Even with the injuries mounting up, there's kind of been this expectation that, no, we're still going to find ways to win games. Our next guys are going to step up. And to this extent this year, it maybe not quite hasn't. I've made a case where they should have at least won the Saskatchewan game in my show, the Argo Bounce. And you could maybe even extend it so far as to the Calgary game if things went a little differently. But needless to say, where they are right now, they're 1-3. The Argos got to find a way to pull some wins off, and Hamilton is an opportunity to do that.
If ands and buts were Kenny and us, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. That's what I say about Saskatchewan. That's just the one thing with football is you got to learn the past's the past. You just got to keep moving forward. But I want to get off like the Toronto and Hamilton thing for a second, because look, obviously 4 weeks down the season, first month of the season's complete. I want to ask the two of you, and I'll give my pick as well. Is there a team out there that surprised you, or a team that's kind of caught you off guard in either a good way or a bad way? Because I have two for each, and then there's one team I have that's completely met my expectations so far.
Rick, do you want to go first?
If he's still waiting for someone, I can go first. I can say mine. Oh, he's
Okay.
gone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe he's maybe doing some research. I'll just go and give my picks. I don't have a ton of statistical information up to back all this, which I'm assuming Rick is going through towards.
Wins and losses is what I was looking for more than
wins and loss wise. I think the big positive one has been Calgary. I think that's the one that there was a lot of pressure on. Dave Dickinson got his opportunity to completely clean house and start from scratch. He was able to do so, and I think they've done fairly well so far. They're not like I think a lot of people projected Edmonton or Ottawa to maybe be above them, and because they were at the bottom of the barrel last year. They're not in that place at all. They're very much in the fight for first, second, for sure in the West. And then the one I would say probably would be the one most disappointing in expectations right now has been BC, the Lions. The way back when they signed Nathan Rourke back from the NFL, my dad and I were discussing it, and I think it was the absolute worst thing they could have done to have that sort of competition between Nathan Rourke and Vernon Adams, and then they had to make that decision to stick with Nathan Rourke, ship Vernon Adams out. And I think with the Calgary example, it's proven very well in Calgary's favor and sort of backfired in BC. Not that it's entirely on the quarterbacking, but there's a lot of things. They've cleaned house. They got a new quarterback or former quarterback coach in Buck Pierce as head coach of the team. And I think there's just not quite the right pieces in play.
I'm going to go with my picks next. So my surprise pick in a good way, honestly, has been the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It's just every year you're waiting for them to fall. You're waiting for them to, is this the year that they're no longer there? And Mike O'Shea just finds a way. Zach Caleros looked really good. Chris Streveler, too, in that week 2 game looked phenomenal. Brady Oliveira gets hurt. Hey, we got Matthew Peterson to run the ball. Nick Dembski's back. They find ways, and it's not like they're just beating opponents. They're whooping opponents. They beat BC in 2 straight. They beat Edmonton last Thursday, and now they got tomorrow night against Calgary. So we'll see what happens there. And Nick, my answer is the same as you, because when I watched that game last Saturday night and I saw some of those throws and the soul he was making, I'm just like, I've never played quarterback a day in my life, and I'm just like, you can't make those throws. Those are just some simple quarterback IQ stuff, like the Campbell pick six. I was just like, it was a beautiful read by the cornerback, but it was also just terrible, just ball awareness by the quarterback. So I still want to see them with Nathan Rourke at the helm against a solid opponent, just because obviously he's been out for 3 straight games. But I think if BC wants a chance to be in the Grey Cup this year, they gotta start winning games soon, and they gotta steal a couple games that no one else thinks that you're going to get. And as for my team who's met my expectation, I got to go Saskatchewan just because Corey Mace almost just seems like a Ryan Dinwiddie 2.0, where he just puts his guys in place and they're going to find a way to win a football game, no matter if it's ugly, no matter if it's beautiful, no matter if it's close like they did against Toronto, or even the game against Hamilton week 2. Saskatchewan's just been finding ways to win, and they're 4-0 going in their bye week right now after a couple of bad seasons they had a few years ago. Last year they make the West Final, and now they're looking like the best team in the West.
So I will apologize, Griff. My headphones died, so I didn't hear what the question was.
Teams that have surprised you either in a good way and a bad way.
Or in a good way?
You can say a good example and a bad example.
Okay. So my thing is, the good way would be Saskatchewan, only because with them not having Keontae for Baker.
Yep.
You don't have MLS. You don't have your key receivers, and you're still getting it done with Keontae Johnson and Myers. The one disappointment that I will say is Calgary only because we're now going into week 5 and Vernon Adams still has not thrown a touchdown. Like, how long is he going to go before he throws that first touchdown?
Some of those throws against Ottawa were just, I know the weather aside, which, like, look, I would not wish anyone watching a game in that weather. But if you go back and watch the highlights in the film from that game, there are some throws he makes where it's just he's off cue, he's off time, he's missing. He's like sailing balls over Jalen Philpott's head in that game, to where I think the Reggie Begelton loss from the Argos game is going to be felt the more and more we go into the season. So unless, like, Calgary's just got to find ways to do things. But I really like Rick's take on that, where, like, Nick, I agreed with you, where I'm like, hey, Calgary surprised me, but then week 3 happened, and I'm like,
yeah,
there's the Calgary. You know, it's like you're waiting for it to happen. It's like, there's the Calgary I was expecting all off season. So I get, like, exactly where both you gentlemen are coming from.
yeah. We'll see what happens as they go forward, I guess.
And one thing that you were saying earlier, Griff, about the whole Ottawa Hamilton thing, the thing that really sticks out for Ottawa is their offensive line. Like, Nick, I don't even remember how many pressures you had on Crum last week or on Sunday, but it was like every 2 seconds they were getting to Crum, and then Crum had to run for his life. So, I mean, until they fix that, their offense isn't really, I find, going to do much.
And someone like Drew Brown, by comparison to Crum, has a little bit more ability of reading down the field and is able to get the ball off a little bit quicker. It seemed Crum just didn't really have that ability. And so, because his natural tendency is to tuck it and run. And so then he's just kind of fighting for his life out there, hoping that, someone's either missed an assignment and there's a gap for him to run, or, there's just a fortunate opportunity where he's able to find someone. But yeah, it seemed like, I think this is a little bit different if you have someone like Drew Brown back in the lineup that instantly kind of bumps them up that next little level that they need.
There's one other thing with Ottawa, too, that I noticed through Sunday's game that they finally have, and I'm really happy this player is finally getting the chance to shine, and that's Dan Adeboye. You know, the fact that he's, like, look, because when he was traded from Toronto, I was messaging my colleague David Morris-Sudi. Basically, we both agreed would have loved to have seen him continue his Argonaut career, but we knew it was time for him to go somewhere else and shine. And Ottawa with Tommy Condell is letting Dan do that. And also, I know you guys read the game, but TSN did a really nice feature just with him and his parents and just how much his parents support him. I've met his dad a couple of times, really nice guy. But the fact that Dan, A, they got a running game, and B, we're finally seeing, hey, this is what Dan does when you give him a chance to run and be your running back. My big concern with Ottawa right now is, apart from the offensive line, they got to get Gino going. You brought Gino and Lewis in there. I will say this right now too. There is more pressure on Ottawa's coaching and management than there is on Scott Milanovich and Orlando Steinauer. And obviously, I'm not going to go into the Ted situation just because obviously that's completely different and that removes football out of the equation. But there's more pressure to win in Ottawa right now too than there is in Hamilton. That's why I also said what I said about Hamilton earlier.
I'm not going to lie. There was actually the section that I was sitting in. There is already, by the end of the game, there is already fans calling for Bob Dice's head to be fired.
Oh, it's him and Sean Burke. It's 100% him and Sean Burke. They made the playoffs last year and they're regressing.
Because all they pretty much did is they're the East version of Edmonton, where Edmonton brought over all the Toronto players. Ottawa brought over all the former Hamilton players, if you look at their roster.
Wow, that's
over the years since Sean Burke's been there, I should say.
I mean, they even brought over Tommy Condell. So,
I mean,
I will say, with regards to the game, specifically the Ottawa Toronto game, I was really surprised by how they, to your point on Dan Adeboye, how well he ran the ball at the beginning of the game, and it seemed like they just completely abandoned it for absolutely no reason. I was really surprised that, like, yeah, you've got all this money towards Stan Mack and whoever else, but like Dan was running so well. So for them to give up on it really early in the game, and then for Crum to have all these troubles because they couldn't get a play action going, he couldn't get the O-line to block for him, giving the ball to Dan would have resolved a lot of that in the early portion of the game.
Yeah, like that's the thing, because Dan too against Calgary, he's the reason why the Red Blacks won that game. He had a marvelous, like, 50-something yard run late in that game too, and then he got the touchdown. He had a touchdown in the game against Toronto. I was just saying what I said because he's finally getting the chance to showcase his skills. He was mostly a special teamer with the Argonauts, and he never really was that true bell cow running back or getting the chance to be the starter. Now he is in Ottawa, and that's just something I think that like I said too, not only that his family's happy for, but the fact that he gets to go out there and show his skills. But no, going back to my point, Joe, you're saying fire Bob Dice and all that stuff. I think it's him under pressure. It's Sean Burke under pressure. And one thing of note is that Rick Campbell's there just being a liaison or whatever he's doing. So if they want to get rid of Bob Dice, and I know Rick Campbell coached there before, it's not like you have to go out and bring in an outside person to take over. Fire. No, you don't. It's not like last year with obviously Hamilton's a different situation, but I know last when Chris Jones got fired, Mark Washington, who deserved to get fired, and then they brought in then Chris Jones.
Jones being paid by Edmonton. Yeah, so he's working
That's
for
what I'm
free.
saying. You have that with. I know it's like Bob Dice is looking at it like, hey, I'm bringing my friend in, but at the same time too, I'm like, football's a game where hey, you can be with your friends, but your friends can quickly take your job just as much as they're being there working with you.
It's funny that you say that because I mean, let's be honest, Milanovic hasn't had the perfect coaching record throughout his career.
Yeah, I mean,
so even after he won the Grey Cup with you guys, even then he only had like what a few games over 500. Yeah, even if Hamilton were to release him, you still got to replace an offense coordinator because he holds both positions, a head coach. That's why I hate this head coach, offensive coordinator dual position.
It's working pretty well in Toronto, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't always work for every team, though.
Just saying. I'm just saying Ryan Dinwiddie holds both things. That's all. But no, Hamilton's in a very peculiar position when it comes to coaching, just because. And like I know I mentioned the thing about Ted earlier, and I'm not going to go into details of that. I saw photos. He brought a bunch of blizzards to practice. I think it was. You can correct me on that.
Yeah, him and his family went out and got 100 blizzards for the coaching staff, the players, and everything on today's practice.
Yeah, like. I feel like with Hamilton, there won't be managed because of Ted's situation. I think there would only be coaching or other personnel changes if it comes from the caretaker. I was about to say owner, but I had to say caretaker because I know that's his title. So that's what I think of Hamilton.
The thing that I kind of hate about upper management is there's been a guy in ownership that's been with the team for I don't even know how long he's been there. It's not Bob Young. Scott Mitchell. Oh, no, I'm referring to Scott Mitchell. And everyone wants to see him gone, but he can't be gone because he has part ownership of the team. So, and then we just had Hage buy in ownership into the Hamilton Sports Group. So I think eventually you will see Bob Young's percentage go down as more people buy into it. Because, I mean, he bought it in, 2013, 2014, when the team went to Guelph for a full year. And then we got the new stadium. Maybe it was before that.
If it makes you feel any better, we Argos fans, we saw Keith Pelly and Bill Manning. We saw them when they hoisted the Grey Cup banner. They walked by me up in the upper level to go, I don't know, to MLSC HQ, and I haven't seen or heard hide nor tail for them since then. They were last I heard they were talking something about some Raptors guy being gone, Masai Ujiri. I don't know if you've heard of him, but clearly their priorities are somewhere else. So like at least you get to see.
Oh, we lost Nick. The thing with Argos, I feel like with certain, especially with the Argos too, I feel like MLSC executives and Keith Pelly know, like, hey, Pinball and Murph know what they're doing, to where it's like, hey, I don't have to get my hands involved. They've got bigger fires to put out right now, obviously, like with what's going on with the Leafs and the Raptors. That's not a knock on the Argos. That's just a general, like, this is what's happening in MLSC. That's what I have to say about it. But no, I just want to touch back on my points earlier with Hamilton when I say that upper management thing. I only said what I said just because of Ted's situation, because obviously with him going through the health concerns he's going through, I don't see a world where, and also because I'm a believer in sports that if you fire the GM, you're firing the coach as well. I just don't think you're going to get rid of one to get rid of the other unless he wants to say something. As Nick's back in, but Rick's now on top with me. Nick, you're on the.
Yeah, sorry, I hit the wrong button. I closed my tab.
I would say if you're gonna go that route, I would say it's head coach first.
Yeah.
If the head coach can't get the job, then you obviously know it's the GM.
Yeah, that's just the thing. I just feel like Hamilton this year, I don't know I haven't seen too much of what the fans are saying about the team so far, so that's why it's a great opportunity to get to talk to Rick. And I feel like Friday night we'll get a better sense for it too, because I was looking on the Ticketmaster map, and I know the Saskatchewan crowd was very disappointing. I wasn't at the game, but like they had a really good. Nick can testify to this too. Rick, were you at? Did you do the double?
No, I wasn't at the Saskatchewan game.
No. I meant like the doubleheader on the Calgary, and then when Saskatchewan.
Oh yes, I was there. Yeah, I was there. I left at halftime so that I could go back to the home opener.
It was a hair under 18K for that game, so I feel like for Friday night, I can see them getting at least 16 or 17 for Friday night.
Okay, but here's the question though, and I'm gonna be blunt, honest, and I'm sure other people will say it too. Of those 18,000, how many of those 18,000 come back every week, or did they just go just for the ring and then say, okay, that's it, we're not coming to another game? Because me and Nick both saw how crazy it was just to stand in line for that game.
Yeah, I have pretty good footage of it, and I talked on our show just about how like fights were ready to break out in the lineup, and that's what I think so disappointing about these kind of giveaways, especially the ring one in particular. It brings out the worst in people because you've got guys like who have stood and waited in line out there for hours on end, and then you have other people who think because they've been a season ticket holder for 45 years or were a season ticket holder 45 years ago that they're entitled to a ring, and then you have guys who come up and try to bypass the line because they're supposed to be an early entrance for season ticket holders, and nobody knows where the line begins. Just it ends up being a complete mess.
The way
to answer your question, Griff, about Friday, in the past, with what I've seen from the Argo games when Hamilton was in Toronto, I think it's either 122 to 124 or 121 to 123, just behind the away team's bench. Those three sections is where normally all Hamilton fans disperse to.
That's accurate. Those are where that's the away bench, and then Toronto's is pretty much from like 123 to like 125, 126.
Yeah.
Myself, I have my seats right above section 222 to 223, I believe it is.
Yeah, I'm in 224, and it's a pretty large majority portion of Argo fans, kind of anywhere. 225 is a little bit more expensive zone, so you do tend to get a lot more home fans there. And then, once you kind of get to the right of there, 226, 126 onward, then that's where you tend to get a lot more of the visiting fans.
Just for clarity, I was referring to my seat in the press box that I'll be in on Friday night, by the way. That's what I was referring to. It's because like where I sit, it's like right at 222, 23. Just like humble brag. I don't know, because I was independent, Rick, but I'm with 3 Down Nation now, so that's why I get to sit.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, glad you made it work out. I shot my shot and had no dice, so it is what it is.
No, it's all good. I've been doing this for 3 years now. I've established a good relationship with the team, and I'm on good terms with Chris. That's all that.
Yeah, we're glad to have you in the press box.
Yep. But no, my thing with I want to go back to the giveaway thing, because I'm actually watching them play right now on my TV, and hopefully not blowing this lead. But the Blue Jays, it's like the Blue Jays like 10, 15 years ago when they were barely getting like 20K at the Rogers Center, and there'd be a bobblehead day, and then 45,000 sold out. And those people there. I have a better one for you though, where it's like, do those people just show up for the one game and that's it? That's the CNE game, because every year, because last year's attendance was really mediocre, and then the CNE game happened, and that's when the spike started to hit. So I feel like if you have the team playing well by the time the CNE rolls around, with a Saturday afternoon game, they may creep to like close to probably, hopefully somewhere around 19, 20, 21, because if they got 17 for that game against Calgary, the CNE game is the one I look at to be the big draw for the year, to where it's like, hey, that's the one and only. Because, like, for example, my wife, that's her one and only game for 3 years now. She goes to that game, I do my thing, and then I go get an ice cream sandwich after the game. But no, to answer your question, I feel like it's more the bump in Hamilton fans that will take it over. And obviously, look, there are some Hamilton fans that are good, like Rick, but then there are some Hamilton fans that, like, I've had experiences with. I'm not going to get into that on air.
Yeah.
But but yeah, that's just it. I feel like you'll probably have majority of them, like the crazy ones, like the true ones. Like, I don't know, are you going to be there Friday night, Rick?
Oh, I booked that day off of work for sure. I will be there.
121.
What do you?
Where are you sitting?
I am sitting with.
I am really catching off guard.
While he does look, I will just chip in and say that I'm not sure that there's necessarily that big away attendance boost from Hamilton like everybody expects. Like I know it does go up around, I think we can probably say between 1,000 and 2,000 or so, but from the most committed and passionate fans. But the last couple playoff games that Argos have had at BMO Field, prior to this last one against Ottawa, there were 2 against Montreal and 1 against Hamilton. Both against Montreal, if I recall correctly, had higher attendance. Most certainly the most recent one in 2024 had a more significant proportion of Alouette fans who came than Hamilton fans that came. So I will say that.
To answer your question, I will be in 122.
Ooh, nice seats. Because I was like, I'd like to check the Ticketmaster maps out and make sure, like, you know, all the appropriate filters are on that, so there's no like resale tickets or anything like that. And I was like, I'm just waiting for it to pull up. But when I looked at the map, it looked pretty decent to where, like, even I'm just going to throw it on my screen right now. But, like, as you guys can see, when it's light blue like that, that means a lot of the tickets are spoken for. And even, like, 122, 123, and 124 are all gone. 222 and 223, there's nothing there. 219, nothing there. 227, nothing there. And even, like, 107, 108, there's only, like, a handful, like, if my stupid phone will fix. There's not a lot of seats left. And also, dude, it's the first Friday of the summer. It's the first, like, true Friday of the summer.
What I've noticed with that, Griff, is even in Hamilton, where I sit in Hamilton is you've obviously been to Hamilton Stadium.
Yeah, I was there for the Argos games in 23.
For the pre.
I was at the Grey Cup 2 years ago, and then I didn't go to Labor Day last year, but I was at that Saturday in July game.
Okay. So anyways, where the players come out in the right-hand corner by section 101, where they come out for warm-ups.
Yeah. Hamilton, you're talking.
I sit in that section, and the row in front of me has never been sold. No one ever sits in it, and it's never on sale on Ticketmaster. So I'm assuming, I don't know how it is for Toronto. I want to think teams hold certain rows and don't release them to Ticketmaster.
It's probably friends and family. I guarantee it's friends and family.
Because there's a friend of mine in Nick's, Connor, that uses my other ticket. And on that side of him, no one's ever sat in those seats in 5 years since I've had seasons. So yeah. I don't know how they come up with the numbers, if they're actually sold seats, but
I'm not too sure. But I have one question for you about Hamilton, just because I'm curious about this.
Sure.
If you're going to the game, assuming I'm asked this too, because assuming if you drive to the games, I usually park at Freshco. Is there a better lot I should know about in Hamilton?
So I actually walk to the stadium because I'm only 20 minutes from the stadium.
Oh, you lucky guy.
If you are gonna park, FYI, if you can get there early, depending on what day it is, what I tend to do is, do you know the variety store that's kind of like diagonal from the Freshco? I think it's what the heck is it called? But it's right there across from the old BMO bank. That's across the street. Okay. Across from that bank, they have meter parking. If you can get there early enough on a weekend, or even if it's after 6, you don't pay for parking.
So
if you can get meter parking in Hamilton that's close enough to the stadium, you don't pay for parking.
I don't know if you went to the Grey Cup in 2023, but So for the only 2 times I ever didn't have to pay for parking was the Saturday for walkthroughs. I literally got to park right next to gate 3, like the one where like all the club seats and the media people going through. Like I got to park right there.
Yeah.
And then for the Sunday, we were at a hotel like up Upper James or something like that, where all the reporters were saying that I had to parking because basically I didn't realize how much of the street they had blocked off around the stadium for the Grey Cup. It was crazy. But yeah, every other time I've gone there, it's always I've just said, hey, I know Freshco, I know it's $20, but yeah, I'll have to get there because I probably am going to go Labor Day. So if I get there early enough, I'll take note of
the
that.
other place that I would say is, I don't know, because the city couldn't stop us from tailgating. If you go to Lot E behind Freshco, that's where all the fans tailgate. There's always there. But I find the closer you get to the stadium, the more you pay for parking. So if you go, say, 2 blocks and you're willing to walk those 2 blocks, you're probably paying like $10.
That's fair. Even though in a sad world, actually, I live. I'll get more into details off here, but I live closer to Hamilton Stadium than I do to BMO Field. But I still go to BMO Field more often. That's neither here nor there. Anyway, gents. On that note, let's talk some Week 5 football. As always, picks are brought to you by Gents Boutique, great golf brand out of Elora, Ontario. Tomorrow night, I love that they're doing this. I love the fact that this is happening. We've got a Stampede Bowl in Calgary. Calgary having playing for the first time ever a home game during the Calgary Stampede as the Calgary Stampeders are taking on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I'm going to keep my pick short and sweet. I'm not betting against Winnipeg until they give me a reason to bet against them.
I was actually just looking at the numbers, and it feels odd to see Brady Oliveira 22nd in rushing. Mind you, he's only played 1 game. Now that Brady Oliveira's back, like, I don't even know how you can't pick Winnipeg.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. I think you got to pick Winnipeg. Not a good look for the Stampede Bowl when the hometown team is 0 for 3 in our picks.
The other thing I want to look at too right now, player props. It's not available right now, but yes, Brady Oliveira is over for rushing yards, 81.5. If anyone's willing to take the bait on that one.
Ooh.
Just throwing it out there. But yeah, I'm also one of my best bets for my videos that come out, that's going to be coming out tomorrow morning, is Winnipeg minus 3.5 points. I think Winnipeg wins this one at least by like 4 or 5 points tomorrow night. And then Friday night, it's the game why the 3 of us are here. Toronto Argonauts, Hamilton Ticats. Also, spoiler alert, I have an article coming out about tomorrow just chronicling the rivalry. I actually also watched tonight, because I had no idea this was a thing, but the documentary they did on the rivalry a few years ago.
Oh, from a few years ago?
Yeah, I watched it. I just found out about it, and I watched it tonight, and I was like, hey, this is really well done. Like, they talked about they talked to like Dane Evans and like his Native American heritage, McLeod Bethel Thompson, Enoch's like just triumphs and tragedies, obviously everything he went through with family, and just the whole stuff there. So I thought that was really cool. But you know what, like we were talking about earlier with this game, I'm going to wait to give my pick for last, but I want to, because I feel like I know who Rick's going with, and I feel like I know who Nick's going with, Rick and Nick's picks. But I want you to do a little different exercise for the both of you guys.
Okay.
Give me an X factor for your team, and give me a couple keys to the game that you think that could benefit either side.
Okay. So I would say, like, X, they would have to do this to win the game type thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say, do you want both sides or just one?
Whatever you want.
Okay. I would say the offensive line needs to get room for Greg Bell to rush, because we're one of the one of the lowest rushing teams in the league. And I would say our defensive line would have to get pressure to Arbuckle. Now, as far as looking at the Toronto side of things, I don't know, Griff, if you watched the Montreal-Hamilton game.
Bits and pieces of it. I was just...
If you saw, Montreal was trying to double team Kenny Lawler. And when you have Kenny Lawler and Tim White playing on the same side, if you double team one, the other one's going to get more yards.
Yeah, left White really open underneath in that game.
So that's what I'm saying about Toronto is if you're going to double team them, you're going to end up leaving. So I don't know how Ryan Dinwiddie is going to put that. If you just have one player, if you kind of have like the weak side linebacker kind of helping out the corner on that side, or what they plan to do. But if you're going to double team Lawler, you're just going to leave someone wide open, who's ever on that side.
I'm going to interject with one point right now. If both of you guys feel like making a little bit of money, a Hamilton bet I would make Tim White plus 150 to get into the end zone on Friday night.
And is that just with any betting one?
That was with FanDuel.
Okay, because here's the thing. I don't know if you know Griff, but, and I don't want to get too political here, Ontario has changed a lot of betting laws. I don't know if you've noticed. We can't do daily fantasy. That was my pet, like my thing is doing daily fantasy football. Can't do that anymore. You can't go on BetMGM anymore. You can only go on like FanDuel and stuff like that. That's why I was asking who that was with.
Okay. There is one site that you can still do daily fantasy with, but it's weird. They're based in Kitchener, but you do need to pay in US dollars. It's weird. It's called Owner's Box.
That's fine. I don't care for that.
Owner's Box, but it's also too like you can build just props where it's like, say for example, you're doing an NHL one, you can do like hits, shots on goal, all this.
Oh
stuff.
no, like I'm talking when I say daily fantasy, I'm talking like CFL game zone, like where you pick your roster, you can go head to head with people 50-50s, like that type of thing.
I'm gonna I'm gonna log on to it right now just because I have accounts with like every sports book. Like I just go with the ones that I'm using. Like for CFL right now, last week, I'll be honest with you, I did a ladder of bets. So I bet my first bet of the weekend was Winnipeg to cover that 10.5 point spread against Hamilton. It cashed. So then what I did, I rolled that money over and bet the over for Hamilton Montreal. And I was at the F1 movie last Friday night. So I get out of the movie. It was 18-10. I'm like, guys, what the hell? They cashed the over. Then I bet Saskatchewan to cover the spread against BC. They did that, no problem. And then on Sunday, Nick, I took the Toronto Argonauts on the money line. So I kept rolling that over. So right now I'm on bet 365 to where it's there. But with CFL betting, though, it's like FanDuel and Bet 365 are the only ones who really showcase CFL numbers. A lot of the other ones don't. Like if you click football, you're going to go right to like NFL, college football, all that other stuff besides the other big sports. Oh, actually, never mind. No, Rick, BetMGM has all the stuff right there. Like.
Oh, yeah, no, just because when I tried to log on to it the other day, it's like, oh, your area of where you're not in the district.
You have to have something called, I have it on my phone, it's called GeoGuard Locator. You need to have that on your phone. Basically, so that's an app. It's like a third-party locator app that the sports books use to verify that you're Ontario. Because like even, it's weird how it works. Because like in Ontario, you have to be in Ontario to make the bets. Once you leave, you can't. Like because every other province basically uses their version of like OLG. Like I know, like you know how the Stampeders and the Elks jerseys have Play Alberta on their jerseys. Play Alberta is essentially Alberta's lottery's pro line. So like, so that's what a lot of they do. Like Montreal has like mise a jour, I think it's called. Like so, that's what a lot of the other provinces do. So they basically just say, hey, use this. But Ontario's the one where they're like, Doug Ford basically went, hey, all these sports books come in, and we know we're going to make all this money back. So. That's what's going on.
It's funny that you were mentioning that plus 150 for Tim White.
I'm a degenerate.
Antoine Litre is minus 150. Like, what makes them think that Litre's gonna get a touchdown? Like, our short yardage has been trash.
Here's the thing, too. Like, even if
don't tell us that.
But here's the thing, though. The sports books like had for the Toronto Saskatchewan game had Keon Schaefer-Baker listed at like plus 200. And I was like, oh, I like this. And then someone informed me on this show, hey, he's on the 6th game. And I was like, then why the hell is it listed? Like the books don't really pay attention to the CFL that much, where it's like NFL where they try to sucker you in with bets. But that's why, like, for example, I look at the Tim White plus 150 and I'm like, hey, I'll sprinkle some money on that. Or like Brady Oliveira tomorrow night at over 81.5 yards. I'm like, hey, I'll do that because there's certain things to do. Like in in the last 3 weeks of CFL bets, I'm 10-2. So like, it's one of those things where the trends aren't hard to follow. You just have to look at something and be like, hey, this makes sense for this reason, so I'm going to bet this because of that. It's not like, everyone where they're like, guys, I found a winner. The script's out. It's this. The CFL script, it's much easier to read than the NFL script.
Yeah.
But Nick, going on to you. What do you think the Argonauts have to do if they want to win Friday night?
Yeah, for me, if I was going to say, in order to win this game, it's really going to come down to having Nick Arbuckle outperform Bo Levi Mitchell in passing, and it's not an easy feat. They're very different quarterbacks. Bo has not rusted as much as I think people expect him to. I think if they get in a situation where they're able to hold Bo Levi Mitchell to under 300 passing yards, and Nick Arbuckle is going to be able to get at least 250 and more, I think they're in a position where they're going to be able to win this game. And then if we're going to go with an X factor, it might be kind of a cheesy one, but I think kind of like last week, it's going to come down to something stupid on special teams, whether it's a big return by Janarian Grant or a weird punt block that Silka is able to return, or just a really great open field tackle where someone like Brandon Calver pops the ball out. Like there's going to be something special teams related that's going to happen in this game.
It's funny that you mentioned that because our punter threw a pass for a first down last week.
Right, yeah. Yeah, like there's gonna be some weird like third down gamble, onside kick, squib kick. There's gonna be some play where at the end of the game we're gonna be thinking, I don't know what the hell they were thinking in this special teams play to try something outside the box. It's gonna be something like this in this rivalry game. It always turns out that way.
So my big thing with this game, I agree with you on the Janarian Grant thing. Also, I'll say this too, Mickey Donovan, one of the most underrated coaches in the CFL right now. But my big thing too is Nick is kind of in that like carefree state now where it's not like, like being reckless or careless with the football, but like carefree is in the sense of like, hey, there is pressure, but it's not crazy pressure. Hey, I've been getting better, but I know I can get better. It's, hey, I can do X, Y, and Z, but also I can do 1, 2, and 3. So I think a big part of this too is really going to come down to who has the ball last. I can see a very similar game to what we saw last September where, it was my very famous article title of A Legio and a Prayer, or does Learum send Toronto into victory? I honestly think this game comes down to who has the ball last. I think both sides have very strong cases. X factor for Hamilton, I'm going to say this right now, is the DBs with like Peters, with Amos, with Goose, because I don't want to try to say Stavy's last name.
Cacciatonis.
Someone of that variety, because how do they read Nick? Because obviously Peters to an extent knows the Argonauts offense still, and Deshaun just came over, so hey, he knows how to read Nick in coverage. So that's where I think it's really going to be is how does Nick's ball security handle in this game? Because I trust Bo Levi Mitchell to get it done. It's just, hey, if Nick Arbuckle can get a victory, it just has the Argos fans, like I said earlier. You go into the bye, then it's, hey, you know what? Hey, Nick, you did a really good job. I'm Chad. I'm coming back. This is my team now. But if not, it's going to be, the whole, all right, Chad, I was bad. You got to get in here and help me with this. So it's kind of that double-edged sword for me with the quarterback.
The other thing that I'm going to mention to kind of go with your whole Bo thing is we were very conservative with our passes last week. Like if you noticed his first, I don't know, he only missed like 7, 8 passes the whole game. If you're going to give us those short yard, 5, 6 yard passes and not go the deep throws, then they're going to keep the Toronto defense on the field. Toronto's defense is going to end up getting tired, and that's just another thing to look at too.
That's a good point. Bo. Yeah, that's a good point you brought up. That's exactly how Bo torched the Argonauts in the season finale game last year to sweep the series 3-0. They kept running the chair route, and the Argos kept giving the out underneath open, and they were able to get 10, 15 yards to catch almost every single time on that 2nd and 10 situation to be able to convert that first down. So yeah, that's a good point. I think it's going to really come to the intelligence of these two quarterbacks, because I think Arbuckle kind of knows his skill set. He knows he can't throw that home run money ball the same way that Chad's able to, or Bo even is still able to throw at this rate. So, but I wouldn't necessarily put everything on either the Ticats, the now Ticats, former Argo DBs being able to read everything, and especially not on the Argos double teaming, because they do tend to play a lot more zone coverage than man in a lot of situations. So how that necessarily works out for the White Lewis combination, or sorry, White
And
Lawler.
Lawler, yeah, sorry. Yeah, the White Lawler combo on that side. I don't know if that's going to necessarily work out the same way, because they do tend to run a bit more zone than man defense.
Will it be Oskee wee, or will it be Oskee no? We'll have to wait and find out on Friday night. Moving on, Saturday night. This is honestly probably one of the most intriguing games of the weekend, as we have Montreal taking on the BC Lions. I'm going to say this right now, and I feel like I may regret saying this. I'm not picking them to win, but this is a game BC really needs to have, because if they fall to 1-4, there is, and it seems like Nathan Rourke is projected to play. I saw Farhan Lalji say today he's taking majority of first-team reps in practice. I don't know if Davis Alexander is going to play or not, but if you're a BC Lions fan, you got to start thinking about the panic button if you lose this game. I know they say the season doesn't start till Labor Day, but if you're the Lions, you gotta at least show up in this game. You just can't roll over and play dead. You can't go meow. You gotta go.
So yesterday, the RDS reporters were saying that Davis Alexander was taking some, like he was doing some practice, but to expect MBT to start this week.
My taking shots on my boy MBT. My thing is, I don't even think Nathan Rourke looked that amazing in the game that they did win against Edmonton. So it's really a difficult pick coming into this one, and I think Montreal still has a little bit of momentum as the betting favorites. Looks like 3.5 from what I see on the CFL website. So I'm still kind of leaning towards Montreal's D.
I will say this, though. I don't know if you've seen it or not. With Austin Mack not, by the looks of it, not playing, they also added in Alexander Hollins this week.
Yep.
So that receiving group in Montreal is just getting more scarier by the day. Now, regardless of McLeod, does better than last week or not, is a whole different story. But if Rourke doesn't play, as a famous person that I'm not going to mention names because I know Nick knows where I'm going with this. This could be another hot garbage game if the backups don't perform.
Yeah, it's like
I know Nick didn't like the words, but still.
It's like those NFL Thursday night games that right now any football fan in the South is fiending for, where it's two teams that's just why are these teams on primetime, but I'm still watching anyway.
Yeah.
All through this game, I'm going to say this: Montreal wins, BC covers. That's what I'm going to go with. I think BC covers the +4. I think BC keeps it close, because like I said, the Lions got to roar loud, as I coined on a podcast with Shinetti about a couple months ago. But they got to show up. That's my big thing. BC, even if you lose, you got to look good doing it. You can't just roll over and play dead.
But my thing is if Rourke does not play,
mm-hmm.
Who are you going with? Because I can tell you Mazzoli ain't going to get the job done. And
you got to see what Chase Price can do. See what Chase Price can do. It's simple. You can't.
Cameron Dukes is waiting.
He's doing quarterback school stuff down in Florida right now.
Really?
I mean, there's always Shea Patterson. Listen, you can come have Jake Dolegala back from our practice squad. He was in BC last year.
Or,
I'm sure he
to Viola, right?
Oh, he's down in
Europe.
Europe somewhere.
Wow. Maybe he's with Adam Rita, I forget the Dragons team that he coaches, Sicily or whatever.
And then
So-
Sunday. Oh, I was gonna say Sunday night we have the Red Blacks going to Edmonton. I know I said about the Red Blacks before, but I bet if you say to me, hey Griff, here's $100, go bet the Elks, I will look at you and say no, give me the Red Blacks. I think this is just the game. The Red Blacks are the better team. The Red Blacks need the win.
I'm sorry. So I'm not looking at the betting side of this. I'm looking at the daily drama show of this game because you have Eugene Lewis on one side and you have Ed Harvey on the other.
Oh.
So I'm looking at who's going to prove who wrong.
I think I think this is a game that like Ottawa finally uses their receivers properly and gets a win. Because
apparently Braylon Addison is out 2 to 4 weeks.
Oh, I meant like Geno Lewis and stuff. I didn't mean like.
Oh no, that's what I mean. Someone will have to step up because Braylon Addison's not playing this week.
Yeah. Again, looking at it on the lines, Ottawa's still a favorite. I think 2.5 on the CFL website on the road. And it's funny too because then you contrast it with the experts, if we use that loosely, on the website, and I think all or was it 4 or 5 of them picked Edmonton in this game. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards Ottawa because as far as I can see, there are no superstar players in Edmonton, or none have proved anything to make it worth betting so yet. Just a bunch of Argonaut has-beens, it seems.
Justin Hardy's another player I could look at having a big game in this one.
Hopefully Pimpleton finally comes around because he was struggling for a bit.
I just looked at the lines on FanDuel and I just saw like Justin Hardy at plus 120 to get in the end zone, and I'm like, hey, I like that.
Do we know yet whether or not it's going to be Drew Brown coming back or if Crum's going to be starting quarterback?
I had seen from
I think he was practicing.
AJ from a sports commentator from TSN 1200. He said,
yeah,
that no confirmation yet on Drew Brown's status, but as of 9 hours ago, he was taking first team reps. So take it for what you want to.
I would lean towards that's probably going to play. They'll probably see how tomorrow in practice looks, because when you play it basically, as I'll be honest with you, I've always been an NFL savant. Every practice that's for a Sunday game, Wednesday is usually the first day, Thursday usually install the game plan, and then Friday is usually like the finishing touches. So I feel like by tomorrow we're going to have a clearer answer, and then we'll have a definitive answer come Friday for Drew Brown's status.
I mean, I would say, Griff, I wish I could believe that, because when I went to practice yesterday, I thought Wolodarski would be making his debut this week because he was practicing with the ones.
Yeah, he's not playing tomorrow.
They have him limited today and questionable. So we'll have to wait to see the depth charts. And they also have Stubblefield as questionable. So hopefully he will be able to come back either this week or next week.
I also looked ahead at the schedule for next week. It sucks. There's only 3 games next week. There's 3 teams on bye next week.
That's why we need another East team.
One day, man. We hope one day.
I feel like we'll probably see it get done at some point. I just feel like they got to get the TV deal done first, and then after the TV deal gets done is when the other business will get handled. I just think there's bigger fish to fry for the league at the moment.
At least Winnipeg's already burned 2 of their 3 bye weeks by week 6. We in Toronto had that problem before.
I was shocked when I saw that.
Yeah, and then who's the other team?
Toronto and Montreal.
Saskatchewan has one this week.
Yeah, so Saskatchewan this week.
I'm going to pull up Winnipeg's schedule just to see when their next bye week is after this. Winnipeg literally has a home. They literally have their next 5 games are against either the Argonauts or the Stampeders.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, home and home with Toronto. Week 13 is another 3 team week. Their last bye week is a lot later.
their next bye weeks. So it's next week, and then they have to wait till October. So if they get hurt, they're in a little bit of trouble. But Nick,
So
I like the 3-team. I like the 3-team bye week for Labor Day though. Like just have the 3 big games played: the Sunday night game with the Banjo Bowl, Labor Day Classic game, and then the Alberta Battle, whatever it's called, on Monday night. I like
Yeah,
that. Just
I
those
don't know. I kind of like the idea of getting that sort of East Coast West Coast game. It might be a little different once we get a last the fifth team in the East in Halifax. That would make it really awesome then, because it'd really be fun to do kind of Labor Day doubleheader where Halifax comes to BC, BC goes to Halifax kind of thing. But yeah, as it stands, Ottawa, BC, it was I love the intention of it, but it didn't really have the same quite hold.
Or you can just do Ottawa and Montreal have like their first leg, and then obviously they have the one on Thanksgiving Monday.
The Poutine Bowl.
Yes. But anyway, gents, we'll have to see which one of you come Saturday morning gets to go for a victory shawarma. I know that's something Nick enjoyed in Ottawa.
Well, I will say this. So me and a good friend have a bet going on.
Well, yes.
So I don't know if you know about this, Nick, but me and Connor have a CFL Fans Fight Cancer bet going on. We each put in $30. It will go to the winning teams of the best out of 3, their portion of the CFL Fans Fight Cancer, and the loser has to pose in the other team's jersey. Do you know how much I really want to see Connor in a Ticats jersey? Because I know he says he'll never wear one, but he's agreed to wear it if Hamilton takes the season series.
Well, on the one hand, we've always said that there are things where the CFL Fans Fight Cancer event supersede in terms of pride and ego, but all I can say to it is that you're going to look really nice in double blue.
Hey, I mean, if Wally and Corey can do it, I'm sure I can do it too. It's just got to make it for a good cause.
That's a great way to put it. Gentlemen, before we wrap up, if people out there want to find more of you and your content, give yourself a chance to plug your stuff.
So I am so actually I'm actually rebranding right now because fun fact, we actually found out in Hamilton that we're getting an AHL team back in the city in 2026. So the only downside is it's Bridgeport Islanders, so I gotta be an Islanders fan. Thanks. So you can find me right now at Ticats Talk Network on Twitter. I do Ticat content. I do game previews, fantasy, for Game Zone, you name it. I probably have it on there.
I will say that it was too bad that you guys didn't have the AHL Hamilton Bulldogs, the Habs affiliate team. Still, yeah.
Mind you, I am looking forward to when the Marlies come to town, because when the Marlies come to town, we always get like 10 to like 15,000 fans.
And everybody boos from the Islanders. I guess they'll boo the Toronto team because of the John Tavares thing.
And I mean, they just renovated the arena for $300 million. So I mean,
nice.
And Brad Paisley's opening night for the arena.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I saw TD Coliseum opening up sometime this fall, right?
I'm still gonna
probably. I would say this fall, this winter.
Wow, that quick.
And also the other thing I'll say too is when my comment about the Islanders, no, it's just because I know the Bridgeport Islanders had a really bad. They did not have a good year in the AHL.
Oh no, they were like 15-50 and like 6-7 or some crap like that.
Yeah, that's all I know.
But they haven't. No, so they got rid of Lou. They brought in a new GM, and the new GM said, "Listen, our development team is not going to be pushovers anymore. We're bringing in better players." So,
including Hamilton's own Matthew Schaefer.
Nice.
Why not?
And Nick, if people want to find you or follow you online, where can they do that?
Yeah, if you want to find me on Twitter's usually the best place place to follow me at Nick_small_38. I'm the co-host of the Argos Bounce Live audio show. We are going to be live tomorrow night, where we'll be discussing specifically the Argos in more detail as we prepare for this game. I'm always happy to chat with anyone if they want to DM me, ask me any questions about Canadian football. I try to write on the side. I'm getting back into that now. So if anybody wants to talk to me about history of the CFL, the Argonauts, whatever, hit me up, because I'm always down to talk about and to learn more about our great game.
I will say, though, one thing I've learned about Nick: if you want to discuss history with anyone, he's your guy.
It's
No
fun.
matter what it is.
Football history, he does it all. But anyway, guys, episode number 367 is in the bag. Rick and Nick, thank you very much for joining me, gentlemen. We'll see you guys down at BMO Field on Friday night as another week in the CFL season rolls on. Have a good night, everybody. Enjoy week 5.